Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Oh, relax, Jessie. Come on, lay down. Right, so I'm gonna get started on the paid pattern. Now, earlier in the week, we transferred our pattern onto our fabric. We hooped our fabric. We talked a little bit about colors. Jessie, get out of there, huh? David left the closet open, and that's where Jessie's treats are. And so she thinks that she's going to go get some treats. Right, so now we're going to get started. It's our very first day of the Ladies in the Garden Stitchalong. And what we're going to do is we're going to stitch the black outline of all of the girls. And so most of your threads, and like I'm sure that most of you know who do embroidery, they come in 6 strands, and they're all twisted together. Let's see if you can see a little bit better. Yeah, so there's 6 of them there. So normally with embroidery, you can use anywhere from 1 to all 6 strands. So before we get started, I'll always tell you what color that I've used if I know the color number. Sometimes I don't know the color numbers, and that's because I put them on little pegs like this. And I don't always write the color number on there. But if I know it, I'll definitely tell you. And I'll tell you how many strands we're using as well. Hi again, George. Double trouble for the whole month of February. Me and you's 2 videos a day. Yeah, so I'll show you how to split them now, and then you can use that for every video after. So there's 2 kind of methods. We're going to use 3 strands here and just the plain black thread. I'm obviously using anchor threads because they're sponsoring the Stitchalong. There's 2 kind of ways that you can split them. So I kind of like to do 3 and 3, and then you can hold each one, kind of untwist and use your finger like that, all the way. I got a really long piece of thread, so really you shouldn't have them this long, but I was trying to not get them again, trying not to, rethread my needle again. The other way that you can do it, let's see if I have some extras over here. This one's really long too. The other way that you can do it is you take the threads like this and you hold the one thread that you want. Yeah. And then you hold all the rest of them and you just pull that one piece of thread out. So now I have 1 piece of thread here and I have 2 here. Yeah. Now, the only thing that I don't like about this method is that if you need 3, then you need to pull 3 strands out, and then you kind of have to twist them together a little bit to make them like one thick strand, whereas this way they're kind of already still a little bit twisted. So it's really just up to you which way that you like better. There's no right or wrong way. And you'll notice that I say that a lot during the stitch along is that, hi Karen, is that if you do it a little bit different than I do it, then that's totally fine. Like, you can try my way, or you can just do it your own way. That's completely fine. What time is it there, Karen? She said, I gotta buy the pattern and go thread shopping. Girl, yes you do. Okay, so to start, I'm just going to do a little knot on the end. There's lots of ways to start. Some people will do a waist knot, meaning they'll put a knot on the end and they'll come up kind of over here and then start stitching over here. And then when they're done, cut that off so they don't have any knots at all. Some people will actually fold their threads in half, meaning So I've got one strand here. Yeah. They'll thread their needle and put the needle kind of in the end, like this. Oh God, these freaking ads. How to get ads off my YouTube without paying any money. Right, so you thread your needle like this. Yeah. So you've got a loop on the end. And then when you start stitching, you go through the loop on the back. So actually there's no knot at all. It sounds a little bit confusing, but it's not confusing at all. Like, it's not difficult, I mean. Yeah, so there's another way. Some people just use one strand, and that's what they like. It's up to you. Some people don't do any knots at all, and then they go back and do, and do all the knots later. That's totally fine too. We're doing black thread, 3 strands, and I put a little knot on the end. Okay, let me just zoom her in and we'll get stitching. So we're just doing a really simple back stitch. And a back stitch is where you come up from the back. I think I'm gonna zoom in more so you can actually see it. Yeah, come up from the back and you'll do 1 stitch forward, and then every single time after this that you go forward, you go back down the same hole that you just went through. So you'll do 1 stitch forward, and then every stitch that you go forward after this, you're gonna come back through this same hole right here. Yeah? So up and back. Let me see if I can't turn the light on. I'm like right in front of a window, but when the light is really strong, it actually doesn't help. So this is probably one of the easiest stitches other than just a straight stitch to do. It's like a lot of stitches use the back stitch first, and then, you know, you do other things to it to kind of jazz it up. But this is like the beginning of the beginning. Karen, maybe my stitching will make you fall asleep. If you've got any questions, then feel free to throw them out. Also, like I always say, if you want to say hi or say what your actual name is instead of your username, then go ahead and do that, because I always try to remember everyone's usernames. Ooh, we've got mail. And their actual names. Maybe it's my threads. It is. Oh my goodness, that took forever. Karen said, I took melatonin. I'm waiting for it to work, but you have a soothing voice. Aw. Okay, let me zoom out because, whoop, look at all these colors. Oh, that's so exciting. Look at that. Oh, looks like I got a wool. I didn't mean to get wool. Okay, so we've got some pinks, we've got some blues, bright ones. How fun are these? Can you see? Yes. Oh, I love anchor threads. They're so pretty. Look at all that. Sorry, y'all, just paused in the middle here for a little bit. How lovely. Let's see here. Zoom in a bit. What do we think? Okay, so to be fair, this is meant to be like for the free stitch along and the paid stitch along. So I've kind of got a good mix of dark and light. Yes, look how pretty they are. You guys, I'm like, ah. I will say that I do need some darker green. So I've only got one like real dark green. So I'll end up using probably something like this as like a real nice dark color. But yeah, how beautiful. Okay, I'll go back to stitching now. Sorry. Oh, I'm so excited. We'll start using the colors tomorrow after we've done the outlines. So yeah, I think you kind of get the gist of this. So it's really just a nice, quick, little stitch. It's really good for outlining. It's really good for, well, it's good for outlining anything really. Like if you wanted to outline flowers or if you wanted to outline some leaves. I will say though that lighter colors, you can really see each stitch, where the darker colors like kind of blend into one. So just be a little bit cautious if you use like a light pink or a white or gray or something like that, because you'll be able to see each and every little stitch that you make. Whereas with the darker colors, and black especially, they kind of all blend together, which is nice if you wanted to use it for like lettering or, like I said, an outline, a border, something like that. It kind of blends all together in one. All the videos will be saved onto YouTube. I'm making a different playlist for each of the stitch-alongs, so in case you miss one, you can go back and just look at that playlist, and then you'll be able to see all the videos in order. And like as always, you'll find all the videos in order if you go to date added. If you sort them by the date that they were added, the date that they were added, instead of looking for like A to Z videos or any of the other ways. Hi, Meg. How are you, lovely? Okay, so what you really want to look for the back stitch, or any kind of stitch that you're using one stitch for the whole thing. So I'm using one stitch for the whole girl. I want to make sure that all my stitches are approximately the same length. So I'm just going to zoom in really close. You can kind of see them, but like I said, because the color of the thread is black, it's a little bit more difficult. But try to keep the same size stitches. You might have to make them a little bit smaller on these curves like this, because otherwise they will end up looking really jaggedy, like she's got like spiky hair. If that's what you'd like, then that's what you'd like. But obviously it's meant to be like curly, so you might have to make them a little bit smaller just for that. Just for those parts. And especially if you're using a lighter color thread, because you'll see every single stitch, which means, see, I just said make it smaller and I've made it smaller. Now it's like pointy. But yeah, the light colors, you'll see every single stitch, which means if you make some long and some short, unless you're doing the long and short stitch, it's really going to be distracting. I've got a knot. Oh no. Mike says, I'm good, just spent the whole day in a tambour beating class. Ooh, was it fun? What did you make? The other problem that I tend to find when I'm stitching, especially if I have a thread that's just a little bit too long, is that it will start to kind of twist up like this. Can you see it twisting? And that's when I'm going to just let the needle dangle. So normally I would just completely turn my hoop over and let it dangle so that it kind of untwists, because that's when you get a lot of knots, is because your actual thread is too twisted. She said, so fun, but so hard. I've actually never tried it, but it seems like something that would be really fun. Okay, I think I'm going to finish this girl with her outline, and then I'll let you to do the other two girls on your own so that you're not sat here watching me for like hours. Because it really is just the back stitch, so the only other tip that I will say is when you do their noses, I would cut, and I'll show you how. Make a knot, cut the thread again, make a new knot, and start over with a piece of thread, because you really don't want to have a bunch of threads going through her hair and through her face, since I'm not going to fill it in at all. So just something to have a think about. It's kind of where the thread's going to go next and what can you see through, because I'm using white fabric and black thread, and you can see, like if I just hold it up like that. So if I jumped from there to there, there'd be like a line straight across that you'd be able to see. And you really don't want to see that. I'm going to say that so much. I need to get myself out of that habit. But for most of the things, if you jump around, it should be okay, because we're going to fill in most of it. So if you see over here, a lot of it will be filled in. So if you do have like to jump from here to here or here to here with the green when we do the leaves, it won't be that big of a deal. But with the black thread and the white fabric and the fact that we're not going to fill her in, it might look a bit distracting. Almost finished. I'm gonna have to like make my own playlist or something, because these ads are doing my freaking head in. I'm not gonna lie. Like actually killing me. I'm dead. Like why? Why? Okay, so I've done the one girl. I'm gonna flip her over. That's what it should look like on the back. And obviously we've kind of followed the trail up and around, so I will actually end right where I started. And I like to do 2 double knots. Some people will slide their needle through their stitching a couple times in a couple different ways, and then that will, in essence, be the knot. So they don't actually do a knot, they just kind of move it through. I'm not a fan of that. I like to have a little knot there, but to each their own, that's fine. Like I said before, some people will actually not do any knots. They'll just leave a thread and then they'll come back and do it later. That is a-okay. So just done another little knot on the end. And you can go and like trim those a lot shorter if you want to. And I'm just gonna do her nose and then I'll be done. The other thing I'll say is if I'm using 3 strands, if you use 2 or 1 strand, then you might want to do 2 or 3 knots on the back because the strands will be thinner and they'll come right through the fabric. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your knots. Okay. So that is it from me for today. Obviously, the other 2 ladies need to be... Look how pretty the sun is today. The other 2 ladies need to be filled in as well. It's just a back stitch as an outline. So that's totally easy peasy. Should be doable. And yeah, tomorrow we'll start actual colors and doing another stitch. So I kind of explained in the free stitch along how it will work, but it'll be the exact same for the page. On Saturdays, except for this Saturday, it will be a catch-up day and a giveaway day. And you can enter the giveaway by taking pictures of your hoops and then putting them in your stories or on your grid and tagging me. If you're private, then make sure that you either accept me as a friend or you can message me with your pictures. And then every Saturday we'll do a giveaway. You can win patterns, you can win kits, you can win store credits, and I might put together a nice big bundle of things for the very last one. So the more pictures you take, the more that you update your stories and your grid, the more times you'll be entered. Obviously, we do more stitches every day, so kind of you should be able to see like a progression of your hoop. So yeah, let me know if you've got any questions. I'll put, you can DM me or I'll put a little question box in my stories in a little bit. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it so far. Just an easy peasy back stitch. But I will see you tomorrow for the next part. All right? Bye.